Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons. Thank you for your support. Enjoy the video. Hey there, Rulers! Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to the Teacher's Lounge, your favorite ever live Force of Will podcast featuring myself, Jeremy Franklin, and tonight I am joined by Josh Patton, who's right down here. I got to point differently, and the ghost of Derrick Muguineza yet again.
Hey guys.
Ryan is traveling back from a Magic Grand Prix and so was unable to join us, which surprisingly enough feeds into tonight's topic, but he can't be here, so screw him. So before we get started, just want to say thank you guys so much for joining us. If you enjoy what we're doing and want to support us, please consider clicking that join button. Some people last week went over to the Patreon, which is still appreciated and supported, but if you want to get access to the chat room, the badges by your name, and all the access to the emojis and help us get more emojis, there's a button literally right before below the video window that says join. Click that button and go through that way, and that will get you access to the membership so you can be part of the chat and you can see all these awesome spammed emotes that we're getting. We're trying to get Hanzo. That's our next emote that we're working towards. So we need, I think, 4 more members to be able to hit that Hanzo.
So what is Hanzo doing?
I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. We're going to get a Hanzo emote in some case. No volume, but I'll be engaging in chat. Does that mean that people can't hear me? I hope it means...
Yeah, I don't know.
Can... Audio check.
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
I mean, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure the stream can hear me.
I'm on the stream.
Oh, you're on the stream? Okay, cool. Thanks, Derrick. Hooking me up, buddy. So, yeah, that is the best and easiest way to support us is by clicking that join button, so please consider that. As you can see, we already have tons of people in the chat, and we'd love to have you all join in as well. So, tonight, we're doing something a little bit different, and we're talking about this idea of our extracurriculars. So we all are here at Ruler School, we all play Force of Will, but there's extracurricular activities. It's not all Force of Will all the time, and so we do other things and play other games, other card games. And so kind of wanted to share, take some time to share our experiences and why, if you can find that, that kind of stuff, why that can be a benefit to you as you like take those lessons learned to other games or anything else. And we're also going to talk a little bit about this new game, particularly called Legends of Runeterra. And when we start talking about that, we're going to transition and start playing with you guys. And welcome, Actaeon Warrig, already right there, nice. A new member. Bam! Welcome to the channel. Well, you are officially a Ruler School alumni. Glad to have you here. Let's get a flex. Let's get graduation cap on. Actaeon has officially graduated, is now an alumni, and is moving right along. So, does anyone want to share specifically their experiences of different games, like why they play more than one game or anything else like that? Derrick?
Sure, yeah, I can go ahead. I can go ahead and get started.
Sure.
So I first started off with Yu-Gi-Oh. I know Yu-Gi-Oh gets a lot of smack. Back then, it was simpler times. You know, you'd play one thing, and then your opponent would play one thing, and then they activate their trap card. Now it's just a whole bunch of hoopla and nonsensical nonsense. But what really got me into it was kind of just friends. And from there, I've met a bunch of other people that played Yu-Gi-Oh! And then from there, they told me, it's like, hey, you want to try out this new card game? I'm just like, oh, card games? Yeah, I love card games. So I go ahead and try it out, and turns out that the game that I was being introduced to was Force of Will.
Hey!
And so tried this out for the first time, and I'm just like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And, you know, after getting to see all the different cards and stuff like that and playing like a game or two, like I started, the wheels of my brain started turning. And so, like, you know, I was like, oh, what if I try out the Servant of Kaguya with Longinus, and I played Kaguya 1, and then doing all this other stuff. And that was the first deck I ever built was Servant of the Moon, Kaguya,
Treasuries,
Dash Your Face, and Treasuries. Yeah, it was a ton of fun. Everyone at the store hated me because I just played over the Fire Rat and then just prevent all damage from everything, and then swing in with this huge unblockable Servant of Kaguya. But yeah, that's kind of how it started for me. And then from there, like I tried out different other card games. I tried out Weiss Schwartz, Argent Saga, and there's one other card game that I'm forgetting. There's also a Naruto CCG card game that I also got into. So I've dipped my toe in a bit of everything. Surprisingly, I haven't actually touched Magic yet. And I think the biggest thing there is just because the card database is just so huge.
Yeah, so much to learn.
I'm afraid to like start digging into that, because then once it starts, I'm just like, all right, now I'm just go digging down the rabbit hole, and then it never ends. So
there's no time for anything else at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm thinking maybe I might look into MTG Arena, because that's like a somewhat smaller card pool, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm mistaken, you can correct me.
No, you're totally right. It's only been like the last 2 years or so.
Sounds good. Yeah. So and like last 2 years, that's something that I can get behind. I can like wrap my head around things. Because I think the biggest thing about like knowing cards is like when you get into games, you start knowing like what you should be expecting. Like what am I playing around? Like what cards do I need to kind of like invest in and things like that. So yeah, it's been quite a time.
Yeah. Josh, you want to go next?
Yeah, so I kind of came up with this subject because as I've gotten older and everything, and I've had to kind of narrow in on what my hobby is, I've chosen trading card games to be my hobby. And I've noticed that a lot of the older or people my age, they've been in trading cards for a while, and they've made a similar decision that I have. It's like, okay, this is going to be my thing, for a while. And so I've always tried to think about it in a way of like, how did I get to where I'm at, and then how do I like continue to progress to get where I'm going, right? So like in terms of like a competitive card player, I've always been very curious of what separates the competitive card player from like the casual card player, and then taking the game constraint off of it. Like, why can some people just go do whatever card game that they want and succeed very quickly? What kind of foundation did they have that allows them to it doesn't matter what the game is, to succeed in that game, right? So sure. Like, and when you think about it, it's almost like the same thing that professional athletes are going through right now. So like what they found is that there's almost just like a foundation for what a professional athlete is. And you can just take professional athletes from one sport that they were doing all through college and drop them in another one as like a professional. And you're just like, yeah, I will teach you this game. You will pick it up in like 6 months or whatever, and we're just going to go be a professional football player when all that we've done is baseball and basketball for our whole life. You know what I mean? Because that foundation is there. And so I've always wondered, like, what is that for a trading card player? Why do some people carry this hobby of being competitive, and how do they carry it so long? How do they carry it through it out? So like the prime example right now is Ryan. Ryan just went and did a Magic GP and he said 24th, but it ended up being 38th, out of like 1,500 people. Like,
yeah,
that's
and it was
impressive.
it was sealed / draft. Like the whole weekend was sealed / draft.
So like that man just like, he's been grinding Magic for like the last couple of weeks, knowing that this event was coming, but like I don't think his Magic experience is extravagant. You know what I mean?
I don't think so either. No.
But like, what about him? What about the foundation that he's had makes him able to just pick up cardboard and be good with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I've actually got to experience this lately, because I've also been doing like a little bit of Magic on the side, because I've wanted to go find out what about my Force of Will career has changed who I am as a player into these other games.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so what I've ended up finding out is that confidence is like one huge thing, right? Even though like our events have been small and everything, like the stuff that I've learned and the people that I've beat along the way have really built my confidence as just a trading card player, not just in Force of Will, period, right? But then also a full understanding of the rules. Like, has really like, because going back and playing Magic now, all it takes is like a week just to readjust to some of the rules. And like, I have a way better understanding of that game than I ever did back when I was playing it before Force of Will.
Yeah, for sure.
Because of everything that Force of Will taught me, right? And so I feel like there's a lot of things, like I felt myself at a Magic, I was at a pre-release event, 72 or whatever people, and I ended up getting third place. And I ended up finding myself oftentimes asking people like, how many cards you got in your hand? No, that was never a question I would ask, like back in my casual
Cards in
Magic career, you
Cards in
know?
hand?
But yeah, I'm like cards in hand, or like specifically like assessing threats, you know, like understanding like that, like, okay, my opponent has like 3 things on board, but like they mean nothing. You know,
Yeah.
right now I'm not getting my mind wrapped around it, and just like learning how to play with low life and everything. It was just like there was a lot of stuff that I learned in Force of Will that I realize is more just TCG foundation.
Yep, absolutely. There's this idea of every different game has a, although if they share mechanics or share concepts or anything else, and often games it's try to reduce your opponent's life to 0, right? Every game has like a I'll call it the golden thread, right? Every game has a golden thread in terms of like what optimum play is, what foundationally is like a good card, what is the strategy that is going to get you where you need to go. It's like the kind of like the idea of every game has a concept that gets you from point A to point B the fastest, and every game is a little bit different, and each of those pathways looks different in terms of how you accomplish that path. And when you're first getting started playing a card game, I think it can be very, very daunting to try to figure that out. But I think once you have built up the way of saying, oh, wait, I'm finally starting to recognize what really matters. I'm trying to finally realize how I get to the close. I'm trying to finally realize why this card is so good, why I need to answer this, why I don't care about this. When you start to see that golden thread, I think when you go to other games, like you said, it takes a little bit of transition, but you're going to pick up on those things easier. Like you're more in tune with it. I liken it to I played Yu-Gi-Oh! That was my first card game. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Got out of it for a really long time. Came back into it. Was decently successful at the local level. Never picked it up at the higher level. I don't think I was ever in tune with the golden thread of Yu-Gi-Oh! Don't ever claim to have been in my way. Especially not like it just got too crazy for me. I knew how to build the best deck according to the internet and pilot it, but I didn't know why it was the best deck. I just played it. And then I went from Yu-Gi-Oh! To Kaijudo, and I played Kaijudo with Paul, and that game really started to help me hone in on what that golden thread looks like in terms of deck construction, how I'm building my deck to do what I really care about in terms of my opponent's stuff, like all of those pieces. Unfortunately, that game died, but I started to build that foundation. And then I came to Force of Will, and like I feel like it's been honed more since then. And I find myself like even thinking about games differently because of the experience I have with Force of Will and having more success with it. And also, on the downside, it's also kind of ruined some games for me.
Yeah.
Like, no joke, my dad publishes video games now that he's retired. He's published several. And when he was doing some testing for one, we played it, and everyone at the table had a great time, and I was so bored and so uninterested. Because I learned very quickly foundationally from the card game aspect of like being able to manage interaction and like being in control and being able to respond and like having that semblance of that golden thread. And I played a game that there was no golden thread. It was literally just like roll the dice and hope you get there. And I'm like, this is not enjoyable to me at all. Like, I tried 2 completely different strategies in that game and came in last place both times because of just like the happenstance of things that were completely outside of my control. And I would have normally loved a game like that when I was younger, so there's some downside. But I take it to like Runeterra, and I'm already seeing, as I'm adjusting to things, yes, I'm making some bad math mistakes and play mistakes, as those who are watching the luncheons can attest to. But, like, I'm finding myself already starting to feel the flow of games a lot faster than if I had, like, no TCG experience and I was just guessing based on just reading cards. And I think that there's also some benefit to that in going back to Forcible, like you said, confidence. Like, if you can be successful in more than one thing, it boosts that it's not just, oh, I'm just good at this game, and it's, oh, no, I'm just good. Like, I have talent, I have skill that can be transferred from thing to thing. You don't want to get too cocky about it. That's not what I'm trying to say there. But, like, you can kind of take it from just your career in one thing, and you can say, oh, no, wait, this is something that I as a person possess. And that can be a big boost to confidence. So,
yeah, absolutely.
It's important to play multiple things if you can afford.
Not only that, it's more fun.
Yeah, for sure. I also find myself like I've been playing Runeterra this whole weekend and everything else, and strangely enough, it's got me more hyped to go to locals for Forcible on Wednesday. Like,
yeah,
and I think
just
it's
wanted
just
to play card games.
Yeah, I just get to play card games on a more consistent basis now, and it just drives my interest up for more card games. So.
Yeah, it's been interesting watching the Rogues Guild because I've watched everybody over the last year and a half just kind of play, you know, a bunch of different things, right? Like we've dove into Argent Saga, where some of us are doing Arena, some of us are doing the Legends of a lot of us are doing Legends
Yeah,
of
a lot
Runeterra.
of us are doing Legends of Runeterra.
And then we're even talking about this Eternia game coming out, and like we're just like trading cards. Like trading cards has become life, and it feels. I've always wanted to kind of break down like why. What is it that makes this not just like a young person hobby? What about this is gonna like carry on into whatever comes in the future? You know?
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
It is, but I think. Go ahead, Derek.
Go ahead. All right, so kind of to answer your question from like my point of view, like the reason like why it is such a big thing for me is what part of it is you know, getting to meet new people, kind of like expanding my network. You know, I've met so many people from playing different card games that I don't think I would have ever met before if I wasn't playing it. Like if I was just like say if I was just to go outside and walk around, say hi to everyone that I met, I don't think I'd have met like nearly as many people as I have through like Forcible or Argent Saga. And not only that, but just some like the brain teaser aspect of like deck building, where you just get to it's like, all right, so this is I like the design of this card. How can I break this card? And you know, and for me that card is a stemma.
I was like, there it is.
In case you were wondering,
that card is 100% a stemma.
Yeah, and just like it's like, all right, so like how can I synergize with this card? What else does this work with? I mean, going through the database, looking through all these other cards, and then you know, like, all right, well, this card's been pretty like lackluster. How do we break this? You know, like how can we find the new next best thing? You know, that's another thing that that keeps me interested in TCGs is figuring out like sure you can like always like look up decks if you don't know, if you don't have an idea, or sometimes you like new decks get inspired by decks that are already there. But for me, like trying to figure out the next best thing. That's why you always see me with like all these crazy wacko ideas that probably shouldn't be a thing. Like
I'm just waiting to see Derrick. I'm just waiting to see Derrick build a stranger deck when he has access to all 10 dual stones. That's gonna be wild.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. I cannot confirm. Well, so I guess the first Stranger deck that I built was Melgus, and I tossed in Genshi Tensen. So
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
And that right there is kind of like a testament to the whole what cards are super overlooked or just not good at this time. Can we bring them back into the current meta and like give them their place? You know, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's kind of it for me as to like why I'm like all super hyped on TCGs and willing to try out basically any new TCG there is.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. There's something about it's almost like rising tide lifts all boats, right? So like the more engaged I am in any TCG, the more, like I try to experiment or get like an enjoyment out of one, the more it makes me want to play all of them, and the better it makes me at all of them.
Yeah.
And so finding ways to do that, and I also think there's the extra benefit of like playing multiple games if you can set it up in a good way is what helps you avoid burnout on any one particular game, because burnout is very
sure.
real.
Yeah.
And sometimes people can get, especially if it's like a stale meta or like people just don't aren't enjoying the decks that currently exist, or the cards aren't really doing it for them, or they're having a bad win rate or anything else, you can get burned out. And so if you can find a way to like take a break from it and then come back, or constantly be toggling between two without like losing engagement in either, I think that you're in a good success. And I think that's part of why Runeterra has been crazy. I mean, it's in open beta, and I think that's why a lot of us on the Rogues are probably playing it, is because this is a game that is free to play to an extent in terms of getting cards, but it's free to play. You get to play against people online very, very quickly, or you can just play versus an AI. Games take 10 to 15 minutes. Deck building is super unique, but also very streamlined because of the interface that they've built. There's a natural like grind built into it that's not like annoying to participate in. And there's a lot of variety in it, and like just in that itself has hooked so many people, because it's not Runeterra is a game that I think you could play just super casually, because you also don't have to play ranked. You can just play normal and just like play games and enjoy it, and still get the grind to get all the cards and everything else. Or you can get that competitive edge, but in general, it's just kind of like a very minimal commitment kind of game that has a lot of enjoyment to it. Like is a very easy pickup of a second game. I've talked to Josh, and I've talked to Derrick, and I've talked to a bunch of people before about a game that gets presented to me. It's like, you should try this, and I'm like, it's a physical TCG. I'm trying to build my FAL locals. Like, that's my focus in terms of the physical presence, right? But then you have something like Runeterra where it's like, I don't have to worry about building locals. It's an online system.
Yeah.
Builds it itself. And so like that for me has honestly been nice. And so I think if you're able to find something, whether it be Runeterra or something else like that, that can give you that avoiding the burnout, but also doesn't take your focus away, I think you should try it. And that's one of the reasons why, you'll see me every day at lunch at work, Monday through Friday, playing Runeterra for an hour. So.
Man, that must be nice.
I have a very flexible work environment. I'm very blessed in that way.
That's awesome.
So
yeah, I watching everybody do the Runeterra thing. I'm just, it's crazy, and I almost think there's a little bit of like the way that I view it from an outsider looking in, right? So like I've been very disconnected from the whole esports kind of shenanigans. Like for me, I can't do digital trading cards. It has to be in person for me, because where
Sure.
Derrick's thrill is in the brain teaser of building a deck, my thrill is in the like Jedi fight between my opponent and me face to face. Like there is no game that will ever compare to the battle of the minds between somebody sitting across from each other. Like period. And so like that's what I live for. I live for that battle, and I can't get that on the computer. But like part of me though sees that like the young generation, right, or even my generation, like the kids that like Twitch and the esports, the professional teams, this is the same company that has made the biggest esport, right? Uncontested, the biggest esport. And they have just launched this brand new trading card game. And I feel like there are a lot of trading card players, trading card like professionals that want the same limelight that esports athletes have.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? And so like I think that is like a huge draw to this game. There are a lot of people that are like, okay, it's my time
Right now, but like the first actual tournament is going to be
Yeah,
massive.
once we get more cards and people have had a chance to experiment with different decks and things like that, it'll be wild.
So
Yeah, so I think there's a huge draw to like just the fame of this being the next big thing. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
So with that, we're going to show you guys a little Runeterra.
Okay, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as you can see right here, make sure Josh and Derrick, you guys can see my screen, yeah?
I can see your screen in Discord, yeah.
You can see the Runeterra screen. So,
I can.
welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go in playing this in such a way that you don't need to have a good amount of experience up to now. Josh has 0 experience with this game. So
I have 0.
0. Derrick and I have been playing a bunch. So we're going to do something that's called an expedition, which is a draft. But it's a little bit of a different draft. This is a very cool mode that they introduced, and honestly was probably one of my favorite parts of this entire game. But
am I going to be blocking a lot of stuff?
No, you're not. You're up
top,
in the
right?
you're up in the top corner. You're good.
All right.
So the way this works is we get to go on a little quest here. So we get to see. We start off with picking out a champion card, and everything's always in these sets of 3s. So when we're drafting, everything's a set of 3. So we got Lux, who's like spellcaster barrier stuff, which is preventing damage. Anivia, which is going wide with boards and a lot of spells, and then Callista, who's like trying to get stuff to die.
Face.
What do you think, Derrick? Where do you want to start? I'm honestly thinking Anivia with cloning program.
I love that. So I've been playing a lot of Anivia, and that card is probably one of my absolute favorites. So
in draft, I'm really liking Anivia. Like it just never dies. So we're just gonna grab Anivia.
Yeah, that card's like so hard to remove.
So now we're getting to play. We get to pick a second one. We're avoiding Heimdinger completely because I don't like Heimdinger.
I don't either. I'm personally a fan of Fiora, mainly because she just gives you a secondary win condition.
Yep. So we're gonna play these two. So the way it works is you start by picking out your 2 champion wolf because Entreat's really good. You're gonna see yourself doing card analysis in such a way that you don't normally get to do when you're like doing deck building, because you're drafting, right? But no one else is drafting these cards away from you. Like you literally are never gonna see these sets of cards again, most likely. So like it tells you what your ranking here is down here, and then let's see, how many do you want spells? Shatter. I like this. And so you get to go through this 15, and then you just get to start building your deck. And the goal in the Runeterra is different in that combat like phases, you change between being on attack and defense. And both players are kind of the turn player whenever you're on attack or defense. And you'll kind of see what we mean by that when we get into it.
It feels a lot like Sherry. So if you ever had the chance to play Sherry or any like or cast Hanzo,
yeah, very much so.
It feels a lot like that.
It feels a lot like Sherry.
So much fun.
What do you think the pick here is? More cloning program?
Let's see. Got Purify Succession, Shady Character. What's the Vanguard Defender? Is that the one that gives barrier?
This is the one that's just tough. It's the 2-drop with tough.
I like that one.
Cool.
Gives you some drop power and some protection for your Fiora, which is always nice.
What does tough do?
Tough means that it will take 1 less damage from all sources.
Ooh, yay!
We do need some top end. I like this.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Got some ramp.
Yeah, a little bit of ramp there.
Beefy dude. Oh my gosh, that card is insane.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, that card's so good.
Yeah, we're gonna grab it. It's our nice little big top end.
Yeah, that's like the we've reached the pinnacle of
for sure.
Things.
I like this.
Yeah, that's
I like
fine.
I think Radiant Strike's pretty good.
Yeah, Radiant Strike's fine. There's also another Catalyst if you want to ramp some more.
Yeah,
like-
ramping might be better because we're playing Anivia. And the Brittle Steel is also helpful for Fiora, so.
a third Catalyst for lols. Let's see.
We don't have enough Yetis to make that justifiable. I think we do it. I think we do the third Catalyst because
All
why
right,
not?
cool. We're ramp deck, boys.
Definitely playing Bull.
Yeah.
Fourth.
That one might be a bit much. But honestly, I don't know if any of the other cards are great. Barrier, it's okay.
I think we grab the Avarosian Sentry. A little bit of draw
Yeah.
power never hurts.
Early game, always good.
You want to talk about foundation?
Yeah.
Understanding the power of drawing a card.
Yeah.
Drawing cards
yes,
is
for
always
sure.
feels
Absolutely.
Back when I was a casual, I wanted to just like buff what I had way more than I wanted to draw cards.
Draw cards is. I had someone mention to me earlier today. Someone was talking to me about, isn't Dark Alice going to get less good when we have all the dual stones? And I was like, yeah, but her real power comes from making your opponent's cards suck and then drawing cards. Like that's the best part about
Yep.
her.
Digging 2 cards deeper.
Yeah,
Better
digging
than
2
not
cards deeper.
digging 2 cards.
We have a lot of
deeper.
2-drops. We're gonna grab this Icy Yeti and then feel bad about it later.
Yeah, that makes sense. What does
Harsh-
Entreat do again?
Harsh Winds isn't bad because if we're a ramp deck,
What does the Entreat card do?
gets us a champion.
Uh,
I like Harsh Winds and Babbling.
Harsh Winds is really good. That card's been carrying me through the ladder. Like
What's a
no one's
champion?
business.
Okay.
So,
Harsh Winds
shit.
is so the other thing is that's interesting about Runeterra is that there's 3 spell speeds. They're slow, which can only be played when you have priority and you're not in combat and nothing is happening.
It's like a chant.
It's essentially chant. Then there's fast, which is just like a regular instant chant. And then bursts are played and then immediately resolved, and the person who cast it retains priority.
Unchaseable.
So it's unchaseable and you retain priority afterwards.
Yeah, usually they're effects that seem to
I think we just skip these trades.
affect stats.
I like all of these. Actually, on guard for Starking Wolf's probably a good idea. No,
That one's probably fine.
yeah, we should make that trade. So the other thing is you get to do these trades, which is pretty cool. So now
Yeah,
the way
that's
this works
something
is
that I-
we're trying to get to 7 total wins with this deck. So we're gonna play up against a random person who's also on an expedition, and if we lose it, we have a chance to win again, which brings us back to here. But if we lose twice, we're out. So let's try it out. Welcome.
So you have to go X and 1.
No, it resets every single time. So if I lose one, then win one, then lose one, then win one, then lose one, then win one, it's still fine. You just
But
can't ever lose 2 in a row.
Yeah,
You
you
can't
can't
ever
lose
lose two.
which is actually really cool.
Yeah,
and-
I really enjoyed it. It was well
Another
designed.
cool, another cool thing about expeditions is like if you're like unfamiliar with the game, it's a great way to just like pick up
Learn.
new things. It's like look at new cards. Like, oh, what does this card do?
We're gonna.
Oh,
keep
that's kinda
this-
cool. Let's
we're gonna
try
keep
that
this
out. And then-
Elnook because we have a bunch of the
when
other
facing-
boys.
And then when facing like other people, it's just like, oh, that combo was pretty cool. I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then like that, you kind of like build a understanding for like the card pool, the game mechanics, and then things like that.
So-
and honestly, when I first got into Runeterra, this was the first have because
Yeah,
I
me
didn't
too.
get to play any of the beta or anything like that. So I was just like,
This
you
is
know
now
what? I
turned
have no
into a
idea what's
Twitch
going
stream.
on.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on. I'm just gonna go into Expedition and see what happens. So I did. I was like, oh, these cards look cool, and I tried drafting like what I considered to be like good cards that you would want in a deck. You know, based off of like my understanding from like Force of Will and Argent Saga of like, you know what, you want like a pretty decent curve. You don't want too many early drops unless you're an aggressive deck. You kind of want to like space it out so you have like threats at all points of the game. And then it turns out that sometimes you just want to attempt to build like what is like a constructed deck. And so
What are you doing here?
coming from like the draft of Hearthstone, where it's like you just want to draft the best cards possible. In Runeterra, there's like certain certain synergies that you can actually aim for, since you're not just getting one card each pick. You start off with 3 and 3, and then you get the 2 and the 2 and then 2, and then from there you can kind of like build a synergistic deck, which I thought was really cool compared to like other drafts that I'm used to. So.
The other thing that's cool about this game, and I think the thing that we're talking about foundations, right? The thing that's important here is Runeterra is going to teach you sequencing above all else. Sequencing and combat math is like the two big lessons for this game. Because when you're on, so this icon right here is the attack token, so it gets to determine whether or not we get to attack or not. I think we're just going to go ahead and probably walk into a trap, but we're going to kill this bunny. Oh no, we didn't. So if on my turn I choose to go straight into combat and not like play anything, my opponent doesn't get to summon any blockers. And so what happens is in this game is you get to summon creatures on either player's turn, as long as you have priority and things are empty. So like figuring out combat math, what's attacking first, everything else. If you really want to learn how to bait your opponent, this game is going to be a game to help you really learn how to do that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think we're going to go ahead and Catalyst here.
I am a big fan of that.
So Catalyst is a burst, so it's going to resolve, so we'll retain priority. And once we're just going to actually just go ahead and pass. We don't really care about these two little piddly dudes.
One big thing that I'm just like absolutely in love with Runeterra about is if you noticed, we were on turn 4. We had 4 mana, but we were able to play this 5-cost spell. Yeah. So each turn that you pass with any unspent will, like we did right here, you saw that it went from the normal play point area to that what is like the spell. I would call it the spell pool. I don't know if it has an actual name.
It's spell mana. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Basically, like any unspent mana per turn, up to 3 can get reserved in this spell pool. That
oh yeah, check that
can
out.
Be used. Wow, that was kind of insane. And that mana can be used for spells. So like say you kind of get like a little unlucky and you miss your 1-drop and you miss your 2-drop. Well, that unspent will from turns 1 and 2 can now go into your spell mana. So if you had like this 7-cost spell that was in your hand, or no, 6-cost spell that was in your hand, turn 3 you'll have either 3 mana to play a dude, or you can spend all 6 and play like a much more powerful spell.
Yep. So foundationally coming from, we're just going to block here. Block this guy too. Yeah, we might as well block it now. So coming from Force of Will to this game, we talk about that like center line, right? That golden thread. It's very similar in the sense that this is a game that is about tricks, right? So we talk about a long time with Force of Will that combat tricks or stuff like that, or like playline tricks or sequencing is a major part of Force of Will. Like knowing when to go to combat, knowing what order to attack with, everything else. This game is 100% the same in that regard. And so I think having played Force of Will and coming to this, I actually find myself doing way better than some of the other people that I've played against sequencing-wise, or some of the other people that I've watched play. Because you start to understand that golden thread better. And in the same vein, it's keeping my mind sharp about remembering that sequencing, because in like almost kind of reminding me that sequencing is so important, because in some games where I've mis-sequenced, I've gotten hard punished for it. And so you just kind of have to be patient about that. I don't know why you're okay.
Yeah, yep. And one of the a big example of that is there was a time where I moved to attack. This is when I first started out. I moved to attack, and then after I declared my attacks, I immediately pumped up one of my guys because I was going for lethal. So what I could have done was go to attacks, pass priority to see if he would do anything, to see if he blocks with anything or had any spells, and then go ahead and cast it if he decided not to block, or after he cast his spell. Because what ended up happening was, so I was swinging out for lethal, and I buffed my dude a little bit more just so it would deal I believe it was an extra couple damage just to like make absolutely sure. But then my opponent responded by setting my guy's attack to 0. And so now I didn't have lethal, and then I lost my dude, and then he got a great value trade, and then that was just all sorts of bad news. But had I waited, if I just passed priority, let's see if he had a response, then he would have set my attack to 0, and I could be like, all right, cool. In response to that, I'm going to buff my guy back up to a reasonable number, and I'd still have lethal.
So yeah, like you see, even in that sequencing, I played all of my attackers and I waited to block, and then once he figured out blocking, I had a spell to punish it with, like punish what he was trying to block with. If I had done it in a different sequencing order, if I like tried to burn my removal spell or something else like that beforehand, like I wouldn't have gotten the same value, and I would have lost a creature. So in that sense, I killed everything that he had and kept everything but one of my dudes in play because of that sequencing. And so practicing that kind of sequencing stuff is really important. What are you doing? You summoning a boy? Okay.
Jeez.
Spooky. Spooky spooter.
Spooky, scary skeletons, boys.
So all blocking has to be 1 for 1.
Yeah. Yep. And there is shadow blocking in this game, which is another big thing about sequencing, because you can throw your guy under the bus and then like do something to kill it or gain some advantage. There's a card that says kill a dude, kill one of your own dudes, draw 2. So you can like throw a little piddly dude under their biggest blocker, and then it's gonna die anyway, so might as well draw 2 cards off of it.
Just make sure it doesn't have overrun.
Yes.
Which is the same thing
Well,
as
if you
trample
sack
and
it,
or pierce.
if you sack it,
It'll still go through.
It'll still go through.
Yep.
Well,
Overwhelmed, not overrun.
overwhelmed. Yeah.
Yeah. That is the one case where that damage will go through.
Where's my Anivia?
Bottom of the deck always.
Always.
Champions are always at the bottom of the deck.
So we're gonna block
And these kind of glowing creatures. They have like that purple
this boy.
misty stuff around them. They're called elusive units, and which is basically the same thing as flying.
Yeah.
And they can only be blocked by other elusive.
We got flying, boys. That is not an Anivia.
Is pretty strong.
It's not an Anivia. Stab it. Let's see here.
Interesting.
Can play this. We're gonna play this.
Draw some cards.
Oh,
Back inning.
jeez, Louise.
Yeah, there she is.
She coming out in a few turns.
See, like I'm having a hard time figuring out how you would lose this game.
How I would lose this game?
Yeah, because like part of that golden thread, or at least the foundation that we've been talking about, like this dude's just like running out of options. Like his threats, like your hand size is
Oh, sure.
quite a bit.
Yeah,
and
for
like,
sure. And I think
he's
it's
not
like,
going to get through.
and this is one of the things that I
whatever
think
you
is
got
important.
going on.
As like this game is very, very new, and so you mentioned before. Oh, geez, Louise, the Scuttlegeist. You mentioned this before. How there's this like, someone who's never played a trading card game before, or like an esports people. Like this game is very interesting because, do we do? Can't play this. Just go into combat first and see what happens. We can't summon anything else.
I'm a fan of getting out the 3/2 and then just like a swing with everything. Because next, well, maybe not everything.
We're giving
'cause he
we're
gets
giving
to
our
attack.
guy with challenger barrier,
That makes sense.
and we're
Just
gonna
grab the Vile Maw
steal
or
the Vile
drag
Maw.
that 6/3.
We're gonna steal the
right?
Vile Maw.
makes sense.
We're gonna force this
That's
guy to block.
6/3. Yeah, fuck yeah, you are.
So then we're just like, well, that's dead, and then
Yeah, might as well just swing with everything else because it's like if he doesn't block this, he takes all the damage. If he does block it, then you don't
win the
really care
trades, and then I
because-
just play dudes afterwards.
and then you just you get to play.
But like, there's no consequence to you swinging right now.
No,
Nothing's
there is
capped,
not.
nothing
There is
whatever, and like you just get to use all these again later for blocking or whatever.
If they survive, yeah.
And if
Yeah,
they don't
it's
survive, you're
not-
totally fine with it because then you get to play your 10 drop that just eradicates all of the low drops anyways.
Well, not this turn I don't, but next turn
right,
I
no,
do.
right. Yeah. That's what I meant.
This turn I
And
probably
so-
played the Yeti and the Tall Tales.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, I was saying like if he was like to win the trades,
Oh, sure, right.
then you're just like, all right, well I have this backup plan of just like your entire board in hand is probably gone, and now you're getting hit for 10.
Yeti. Bow. Frostbite them all. I could have done that first to save some trades, but I'd rather just get them off board, to be honest. And
Yeah,
then
no, that makes sense.
we have a Yeti, so let's just go ahead and refill our board.
Synergy.
So like sequencing, like choosing to when to go to combat and stuff like that, or like whether or not, like you talked about, Josh, that golden thread. Like there was no, oh geez, Louise, that's so good of a draw. Like there was no reason for me not just to swing first because I was gonna get that value off of it regardless. And like we want him to burn resources first, and what was on board both sides was favorable to me. So like it makes more sense to just push than to do anything else first. Is he just gonna pass? What is he doing? But the people who are playing this who maybe don't have foundational experience maybe don't see that way. Like earlier today.
I mean, this elusive 5 is gonna get annoying, that's for sure.
Yeah, but we're gonna kill it. So.
Yeah, we can just drop the 10 drop and then, well, maybe not this turn. Well, I guess if he's gonna be attacking with everything, yeah, you can just throw some stuff under the bus, play the
potential.
10-10.
So we play. No, we're gonna play Anivia, so we're not gonna lose everything. We're gonna let these. Oh no, I guess I could play the 10 and then the Anivia.
Well, yeah, because what'll end up happening. So like in this situation, so can't do anything about the flying. But like if you were to chump block with the smaller stuff and then play the 10 drop, like it eradicates his entire board and his hand, and then you just have lethal on the crackback.
And then I'll just throw this under the bus because it's gonna die anyway, and I don't want my big boys to have to deal with stuff.
Yeah. Because if you play the She Who Wanders, it does everything, so it does include your board.
Right.
So in
but
this case, you're
it's
just
4 or less power, so these boys still live.
Right. Yeah. So the 5/5s will still live, and so like basically you're just like, all right, I have lethal next turn. If you
Here's
have
20.
Yeah. And so if the thing in his hand has less power, oh, it doesn't. Maybe it's a spell.
Oh, that thing rips out of hand too?
Yeah, it rips out of hand.
Gross.
Oh. Well, that's really awkward.
I think I'm still okay because my dude's
You're
bigger
still
than
okay,
yours.
but that's like, wow.
What a play.
Oh my god. And that there is kind of like another thing of
Ooh, Catalyst.
kind of like playing, like knowing what cards are good. So like in the meta right now, that card is just bananas.
Rasa?
Absolutely bananas. And it also helps you to figure out like sequencing and things like that. So it's like in times where if you know you're playing against a Shadow Isle deck, which is the faction that card is from.
No.
And
Why did you give me Fiona?
Oh, rip. When you're playing against that faction, you get to realize like, all right, so I know my opponent's a Shadow is Shadow Isles. I know that they might have access to this busted card. So when you see your opponent doing like weird things, you can kind of like pick up on these like tells, so to speak. Like if they have like a weak, but say they have like a 5/3 and you have like a 3/1 on board, and they throw it out for attacks, and you're just like, well, that thing clearly dies to my 3/1. Why would he make this attack? That doesn't really make any sense. And so you can kind of like make reads.
Yeah, that's the other thing that without being able to,
Mouse is so good at.
because we don't have the ability to actually interact with your opponent. Like we're literally just playing against we can't hear him or anything. The interesting thing is that this game will actually like teach you to kind of like make play reads in such a way. I don't know why. Okay, I'm just gonna. That's okay. You're bad, but okay. I'm just gonna not let you hit me. Then we're gonna play Fiona, and that should be game.
Yes.
We're gonna go.
I mean, unless he
combat.
top decks.
He'd have to top deck a spell, but
why can't he top deck a Resonator?
Because we're gonna go straight to combat, and Fiona's gonna drag him to block over here.
Oh, so he can't, like, there's no main phase 1?
No, if I choose to go straight to combat without summoning something, he doesn't get
bless
to
your
summon
heart.
something if I'm on the attack.
Ooh, that's spicy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the sequencing order of things is very, like, you got to
Got
figure
it.
all that stuff out. So, yeah. That's a game of Runeterra. But,
Oh, I
good-
was muted this entire time. I'm so sad.
Wait, what?
I was saying some stuff and
oh,
now
you were
I'm
muted
just-
the entire time?
Uh,
Derrick,
yeah.
no!
I
At least
mean,
for like the last few minutes. I don't
how about
I
to
don't
say,
know.
like, I heard you.
Oh, did you? About the oh. Maybe I wasn't muted. Maybe I just
Oh.
looked down at the wrong time.
I don't know.
I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me.
Okay,
Did
don't
you-
listen.
did
Don't
you
listen to
hear
him. Got it.
Raise your hand if you heard Derrick the whole time.
Did you hear
So-
did you hear my conversation about like reading people?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did hear that conversation.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't muted. All right, never mind.
Yeah.
Ignore me.
Yeah.
So we're talking about
That shit
to
you said about
kind of
that one
transition
girl,
us
like,
back.
that's not nice.
So we're trying to transition us back for this last few minutes because we're not gonna play another one. I just wanted to show it off while we talked about it. Like every game that you play has something different to teach you to go into that ground of fundamentals. Like Force of Will, we get to read. We can learn how to try to read people, and that's why you see us constantly being like cards in hand, like. What did you play here? Let me check your grave. Like we're doing all that kind of deep analysis. But Force of Will's sequencing in Force of Will looks different than it does in Runeterra, and reading sequencing in Force of Will is very different than Runeterra. Would you agree, Derrick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So the thing is, by playing Runeterra and like trying to pick up on tells of like, well, why did you? Something that I don't find myself asking terribly too often in Force of Will is why did you do that? That's a question that I honestly don't ask myself too much because I'm already thinking in my head, this is what he probably has. This is the playline he's going to do. Like I'm already building a mental map in my head because all the information is laid out in front of me and like all that other pieces of stuff. Runeterra, when I can't see my opponent and I have to like purely go off the information that's given to me, like visually, I find myself asking, why did you do that? And,
Why did you do that?
and so that question, I think, actually has helped me, at least a little bit, improve me getting into my opponent's head. Or like why they're doing this kind of thing in a way that I haven't personally built off of Force of Will. And so that's why I'm glad to be playing this game and why picking up this second game is building on something that I'm already working on in Force of Will, and then I can bring it back to Force of Will. Like I think the biggest thing here is when you build a foundation, it's foundational, and so when you build onto the foundation, it's going to carry over into everything. But not every game is going to teach you everything there is to know.
Yeah.
Here's a little sequencing nugget for the people that are still watching. Mythic trigger. All right.
Oh yeah,
Everybody,
we confirmed this.
pay attention. When you play your second regalia with your first regalia on the field, right? You can sequence them in a way that the mythic trigger is the first to go on the chase, which means it'll be last to resolve. So that mythic trigger goes on the chase the same time as your ruler triggers do. Okay. So what does this mean? This means that you can draw and look at your stranger
And
before you
potentially your
decide
sword art
what
or spell
will-
art.
Yep, or sword art or whatever. You can look and have all the information that you need before you tap your will in response to the mythic trigger. Okay. You do not have to guess on your regalia. You can tap it. All right. You're welcome. Have fun in Vegas.
That's your lesson for Vegas. Speaking of, dude, can we just quickly talk about some of the spoilers we got in this past week just to close it out?
Oh my goodness. Which ones?
Like all of them?
So excited.
I Spy was like, hey, remember that Glass and Knight Cinderella? We gave it a support card. That makes it
Yeah,
way better.
right?
That makes
Right?
it way better.
Right?
Also, remember Gorgons? Remember Gorgons? We made those playable and
We're
good.
getting some pork. Dun, 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 dun.
goodness. Well, you got to see what kind of Gorgons we get.
I mean,
I'm looking
even if
forward
it's
to
the
it.
original
even
3.
Wonder, like
Even if it's the original 3, Uriel literally says tap a thing down, it doesn't recover as long as Uriel exists. And Medusa forces anything she blocks or is blocked by back into the deck.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you.
I think she's a is she a 6/6 or a 7/7? Like 6/6 a 7/7 for 2. Imagine a 7/7 for 2 that is unblockable, essentially. Not only just unblockable, but forces the thing back into the deck.
Yeah. I can get behind that.
It's so good.
But
And the
honestly,
other thing
I'm
is,
on board with
the other
these,
thing that Paul mentioned to me about the glass knight with the masked prince, Cinderella just says remove a glass counter if she deals damage, but she doesn't have a maximum number of counters she can put on her. So if they don't swing, you can just use glass knight and put on a counter on her for later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
She can just permanently stay an 8/8. That's neat.
Yeah.
well done. I'm a fan. Oh my god, I was so excited when I saw Priscilla's encouragement.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Duel of Truth.
Dude, that
Hello.
wanted Duel of Truth
Hello,
so
one-sided
much.
Duel of Truth.
And it's one-sided.
Yeah, one-sided. I just
And it's a sword art.
Yeah, and
For
yeah,
once.
literally you can pay for it awakened
once.
off of just the regalia.
Yeah. Just the regalia, you can kill a thing and draw a stranger. Like, come on, for 2?
Shakti, my baby.
Come on.
I need one more
Yeah,
sport.
yeah. Getting
Ugh.
hype.
Oh,
Anyway.
my goodness. So good.
Big takeaway lesson from the night. If you can, play multiple games. It'll build your foundation in a way that playing one game exclusively will not. And that'll help you improve in all your games. So,
Oh my goodness. There's like a play line there where you just play the regalia, get a 6/6, and then draw a stranger, and then pass turn, and then use this thing, get another stranger, probably shoot whatever the hell you want, like a Dark Alice or whatever.
and then get
like-
another stranger.
Yeah, so like 2 strangers.
Priscilla,
by
Valentina,
turn
and
3.
Machina are all on the table for Vegas, in my opinion.
That is the fastest deck to get strangers. With
Yes.
that card, that is the fastest.
That is the fastest
Stranger.
stranger access. Yes.
Oh, I love it. 2 strangers by turn 3. That's good odds. You know what we play?
Say
Barbados.
so. No, you don't. Oh my! No one listened to this man. Nobody.
With that, we're going to say goodnight to everyone. So again, if you liked what we saw tonight, please consider going to click that join button down below. We had a new member join tonight, a new alumni. So gracious for that. That join button, you can join for even just $2 a month. Little note, $2 a month to the channel through the membership is equivalent to you watching about 200 videos in terms of ad revenue. So think about that if you feel like supporting the channel. So we appreciate it, as always. We'll be back next week. And until next time, this has been myself, Demo73, and I've been joined by, I'm not pointing to the right corner, Josh Patton, and the ghost of Derrick Muguneza.
Please don't play Barbados. Please
Don't play Barbados. And we'll see you all next week. So until then, class dismissed. Have a good night, everybody.